So, surrendering to the soul is one of the most highest intelligence because you see, as mortal beings, what we call as ourselves, fixated with these limitations, we only know a certain limit to what we have gathered. Whatever we gathered is always a minuscule. We don't ever have the full picture. You see, you can go to a psychic or you can go to whatever for assistance or guidance and stuff. Whatever you gather will always be limited, and even with that limitation, you would never be able to paint the entire picture. You see? So if you're not able to paint the entire picture, we go through life in a very miserable state. So, if you go through life and you're constantly in suffering, in a suffering mode, if one learns to let the soul manifest, let the soul guide, let the soul do all the work, then that one can actually be on a higher level than the rest, or be in a more advantageous state. That's what I mean. There's no higher, lower level, but you see, the soul knows everything. The soul, before it incarnates, it has a purpose. It knows why it's here. It knows what it's meant to be doing, what it's supposed to have done in that given frame of time. So it's best to allow to surrender to that intelligence, because right now we may think that if we get that car, it's going to make us happy. Or if we get that specific job, or that life partner that we want, or the money, or whatever it is on that list of yours. You see, the soul knows what will bring fulfillment. The only reason why you get fulfillment is because it comes from the soul. That fulfillment comes from the soul when you get what the soul desired. See, you got to keep yourself separated, because the self that functions is the egoic self. It's not that you are separate from the soul. You are the soul. But when you look at it, you watching this video, you are seeing it from that perspective. So when one learns to tap into the soul, one learns to surrender to the soul, because the soul is more powerful and can shift things. But you got to learn not to stand in your own way. If you learn not to stand in your own way, you also learn to allow the intelligence that is within yourself to function at its maximum capacity. You see, you may want a specific type of job, but that job will never bring you fulfillment and will never bring you satisfaction. Whereas something else which is more aligned to your soul, that will give you that satisfaction and that happiness and that joy. So to allow the soul to manifest is one of the most important things. That is where the real fulfillment lies, not in your own pursuit of what you think will bring you fulfillment. How does one surrender to the soul? One simply does something where there is no action. You see, to flow with life. You see, life is like a river that is constantly flowing. But, you see, it's wise to flow with the current and use the current than go against the current. The more you go against the current, the more you go against the flow, the more suffering that there is. You see, it's all about becoming or not rather becoming, but realizing or experiencing a state of zero resistance. Through that zero resistance, there is a sense of ease in one's life. You see, the more you try to fight the current, and the reason why I'm saying do not try and fight the current, and it's not wise enough to fight the current, because if you know what the current is, specifically, if you know what the current is, and you try to fight the current, then unimaginable amount of suffering can dawn upon a human being. And I have tried doing this many times. Because once you realize certain things, you become realized in certain aspects of how life functions, how things operate. Naturally, the ego wants to control. You see, you can't be in a body without an ego. There has to be some form of an identification to hold onto the limited self. There's no identification, then there's nothing to hold on to. To be here, there has to be an anchor. So you can flow with the current of life, or you can go against it and suffer. The choice is always up to you. The reason why things don't work out in people's life is because they are simply flowing or trying to swim against the current. Don't swim with the current. Allow the current to wash away everything. Allow everything to fall away. Allow everything to fall apart. Don't try to hold onto anything, because the more you hold onto it, the more suffering dawns upon the individual. The soul knows exactly what needs to be done. Just allow it to do what it has to do. Accept, not reject. If you're suffering with a relationship, allow the relationship, whatever that is, allow it. If it's meant to be or it's not meant to be, allow it to happen. Allow what needs to happen to happen. Don't fight it. And you will see that there's a sense of ease when you do this. It's a sense of power. It's a sense of inner freedom. No one can take this away from you. That's why I say that the surrendering of the soul is the highest intelligence, because the soul knows everything. You don't. It's wise to allow that which knows to control than that which doesn't know.